Good morning, fourth grade class. For the last few weeks, you have been studying several things about animals in your writing and your science units. We've learned about habitats, diet, adaptation, and animal reproduction. Now that the unit is ending, it's time to wrap it all up with a big shiny bow, and you are going to teach me something. We're going to end this unit with a research project. In this project, you're going to hit several standards, which I have listed here on the next page. You're going to find, evaluate, and select appropriate sources to answer questions, seek appropriate help when needed, and use information technology responsible, along with standards for Common Core, such as conduct short research project that builds knowledge through investigation of different aspects of a topic. There's more listed here if you'd like to read them later. So the big question, what are you responsible to do? So your teacher is going to ask you to choose an animal, and by choosing animal, she means a specific animal. So if you pick a fox, you have to identify what kind of fox, such as an Arctic fox or a red fox. The reason why your teacher and I are having you do this is because they are both foxes and they live in different regions. So the information you find on them are going to be different. They're going to have a different habitat, different diets. Your information is going to be different. During this assignment, your teacher is going to provide you with a list of articles and websites that you can use. If your animal is not in these, do not worry about it. I'm going to show you how to determine what other websites you can use on the articles. So there are several questions you should ask yourself when looking at an article. I have them listed here on the next page. The first question is the information accurate? If I'm reading about, say, killer whales, I am going to look for information that I know is already true, such as killer whales are also called orcas. If I find a source that does say that, or that they live in the ocean and stuff you already know about orcas, I'm going to save that and go a little bit more in depth in researching whether or not it's credible. If I find an information that says that killer whales are purple and they live on land, I'm going to discard that article because you know they're not purple and they don't live on land, so it's not correct information. The next one is to research the author and the source, see if it's credible. One way to do this is, if there is an author, click on it or highlight their name, see if it takes you to the bottom of a page or to a different site, tells you, do they have a background in animal research? What gives them the qualifications to write this article? If it's a source, is it reliable? Is it known for being accurate? Also, once you have that figured out, you look for biases. If the article has an opinion, if it states an opinion, if it's trying to convince you of something, it's not a good source to use. You could pick out some information from it, but you'd have to get more information to back up it, because an opinion piece only gives you half of the information. Also, is it relevant? And by relevant, I mean, if I'm researching whale habitats, I'm not going to be looking up what foxes eat. If I find an article about whale hobbies, I'm going to put that aside so I can read that later. It might help me later in my article, but it's not relevant to that moment when I'm looking for habitats. Also, when was it posted? What was the date? Research changes constantly. Every few years there's a new research study. I know not that long ago there was one with orcas. So look at when the article was posted or if it was updated since then. If the article was posted 20 years ago and it's never been updated, then I would not use that information. I would find another source that's been updated or has a higher date. Then look at information that's backed up. Is the information backed up in other sources or links? So when you find an article you love that has great information, go to the bottom, just like when you're writing a paper and you sort your when you cite your sources, the article should do that as well. Sometimes it's listed at the bottom, other times they have underlined words that you can click on and it'll take you to another site. Sometimes it's a good site, sometimes it's an ad. So you can use that to determine whether or not it's a good site as well. So let's use those questions to determine whether or not these sites are useful. We're going to do SeaWorld first. I chose to do SeaWorld first because it has an animal information book, and I wanted to scroll down just to give you to see some of the animals they have information on. We got quite a few that you can look at. Since I've been talking about killer whales, I'm going to click on them. This site has other sites you can click on that have information. So it has habitats, census, adaptation, behavior, diet, reproduction. So it has quite a few that you have in your article. So we're going to go up here and click on habitat. So this is our article that we're going to look at. Looks pretty laid out, pretty nicely. Is it accurate? So let's look at some of the information it gives us. Killer whales inhabit all oceans of the world. That's reasonable. Killer whales can be found around the world. Rarely, killer whales have been seen in freshwater rivers around the world. So far, it's talking about them living in oceans. So, I believe they live in the ocean. That is a known fact, so I'm going to say that so far it's credible. But let's look at, the next one says author, or the source. Well, I see the source is SeaWorld, Parks and Entertainment, but it doesn't have an author. Just knowing it, I know SeaWorld is a credible source. They do have research facilities at their sites, and they do off-site research on orcas and other animals. SeaWorld is a credible source you can use, so I'm going to say we're fine with that. Looking for biases next. We saw that there were facts listed here. Go down a little more. Look, see if there's anything that tells us that there's an opinion. And I don't see anything much. I see information about migration, but nothing that says an opinion. So we're good on that. Relevant. We know that habitats are going to be in the article, which is why I picked this section, because I knew it was, so it is relevant. But the only date I saw in here is listed right here, and it's the copyright date in 2016. Just because they have the copyright date does not mean it's up to date. But depending on whether or not you find other sources that say something else that's listed in here, I think it should be fine. I know that SeaWorld is actually doing a lot of research on killer whales recently, so it should be fine. But I also didn't see anything that would back up the information other than SeaWorld's voice saying that this is what it is. It didn't have any works cited, so I would use maybe another source to do a few backing up to just clarify, but other than that, we should be fine. We have one more to look at. Have it right here. Our article is titled, Why Killer Whales Should Not Be Kept in Captivity. Right away you see a bias, so I probably wouldn't continue reading, but just for this experiment we are going to see what else is in here. Is it credible? Not credible, sorry. Is it accurate? So you can read a few things. For the last few years, there's been stories of captive orcas suffering severe health problems. I did see a few things on TV saying that. And then it talks about a killer whale that lived in SeaWorld in Florida. It does have some things right here that have dates, that I could look up the dates to see if it's credible. And it has this documentary that I did watch, so I know that this is credible. So I'm going to say that it has the information well backed up. I mean, information that's real, not fake. Credible. I see the author's name. It didn't tell me anything about her at the end, so we are going to go ahead and Google her. Talks about her being a journalist online, TV and radio. She has experience in those. It gives us a place to contact her. She worked on National Live TV news, online news. She did receive an award for being a science reporter. She writes daily news stories and also reports on radio and TV where needed. She's now at BBC Earth telling stories. It doesn't say if she has a degree in ocean animals or anything like that, but she does have a reward for science reports, so I'm going to say she's okay to be credible. Then we're going to look at bias. We already determined that it was bias because it's trying to, all the information in here is stating a fact that whales should not be kept in captivity. Date. Right under her name is when the site was published, March 10th, 2016. This is a great date considering it was published 3 days ago, since today is the 13th. However, again, it's biased in the information hasn't really told us anything we'd use in our article, which is also our next question. Is it relevant? Orcas don't normally live, or their natural habitat isn't in captivity, so it wouldn't be relevant to this article anyways. But it does have something that SeaWorld didn't have. It has places you can click, and it'll take you to another source to back up its information. It has it quite all the way through the article, which is a great thing. So even when you're reading this, you can click other places, and excuse me, it will take you to places to back up their information. This is one of the sites that has to back it up. Looks pretty legit. That is the end of this video. If you have anything that you would like to ask me or your teacher, feel free to come to us. We can help you either find sources or point you in the right direction. Again, you are writing a research article over an animal, a specific animal, and you touch on the habitats, diet, adaptations, and animal reproduction using sources that you have evaluated.